Good morning, and I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to share our abstract, which is actually Little Rock's procedure for compliance with Standard 3.3. My Cancer Committee Chair, Dr. David Hall, our CLP, Dr. Ann Mancino, and our Hematology Oncology Representative, Dr. Paulette Maida, worked with me on this procedure that utilizes cancer registry data to derive treatment summaries. And as an advocate for the cancer registry professionals in this group and the data that we collect, I do want to say how honored I am to have their complete support and faith in this process. As you all know, this little standard alone can pretty much bring programs to their knees, but instead it actually created an educational opportunity for us, and it allowed open communication between the registrars, between the providers to other providers. And I can say with a great deal of certainty that it actually does improve patient care. So it was apparent early on that compliance with this standard would be a time and labor-intensive process. Like most programs, the Little Rock VA had very limited resources to utilize for compliance, and the requirement to capture all the cancer information and treatment information seen on this slide into a template or a note would actually be a huge burden for any clinician or staff. So the concept of utilizing cancer registry data to populate these summaries was presented by me to my cancer committee based on the fact that most of the Institute of Medicine's recommendations for inclusion were already a part of a limited data set that was available in CPRS under the health summary section. I'm not sure if any of you, most of you have seen it, but it has two titles. It's called Cancer Registry Summary, or it's also known as the Remote Oncology Summary. And again, this is just a limited view of the critical data items from our completed abstract. Does that look as blurry out there as it does up here? Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Well, this slide and the next is an example of what that cancer registry summary looks like. This is a national template created and controlled by the Health Summary Project programmers, and it should be available to all VAs. So if you go back and you can't see it or don't have access to it, you just need to contact your clinical applications coordinators, and I'm certain that they can help you out. But I hope that it's visible, but I took the liberty to bold the data items recommended by the Institute of Medicine to show you how many of the required elements were already collected by registrars and already available on this summary. This is the second half of that summary, and this section shows all the available treatment modalities with the codes and dates if given, and of course in some instances if no treatment was provided, there is a code, hopefully a code or explanation of why not. But I really wanted to use the cancer registry data from this template, so I met with our clinical applications coordinator and sat with her, and she helped us create a new template that essentially pulls in this section. They refer to it as a data oncology object, but they pull this in from the existing cancer registry summary into a new template. And then we had her go and add the additional elements that would make this summary more compliant with the standard, and I'll elaborate more on those in just a minute. But this is what the new template looks like, and that actually doesn't look that bad. So this is what the new template looks like. We gave it the local title of Cancer Treatment and Survivorship Care Plan. What I'm presenting to you today is just going to be the cancer summary and not the survivorship plan. But as you can see, this second session is just a little bit shorter because we've actually gone in and removed the elements that our cancer committee decided was not relevant and should not be on the summary. But the blue text here is to show you the new elements that were added to this new template as opposed to what gets pulled in from the cancer registry database. And this is the second half. And you can actually see it in better details. Again, the black is the original cancer registry data. The blue items indicate new data elements that we added to the template, and the dark bolded data is all that had to be derived onto the template by the provider or the registrar, which as you can see really isn't that much. And I took the liberty to note in red, I did a couple of notations to show you how it's possible to use this template to monitor and show compliance with standards 3.1 for patient navigation and 3.2, the psychosocial distress screen. And not noted on the slide, I wanted to make sure you knew that standard 1.6, which is a requirement quality control plan, but it also has the requirement for physician chart reviews. We use these for compliance because once the provider reads through this and signs off on it, it essentially covers all the same elements that are required for the chart review. So we count every one of these as a physician chart review as well. So our procedure for initiating this summary actually begins in the cancer registry after the abstract is complete with full first course of treatment. Our cancer registrars initiate this note in the provider's name. The registrar is required to review and add and delete several things before they save it without signature. Once it is saved without signature, the providers actually get a notification in CPRS that they have an unsigned note. Then the provider must go in and QA the data, add any missing or relevant information needed. And then it's the registrar's responsibility to track the summaries that they initiate, and once they've found that the provider has signed it, they go in and add the primary care provider as a co-signer, and this then alerts primary care that the summary is complete and available in CPRS for them to reference. Now, learning this procedure really required minimal staff training. It was easily picked up by our registrars, and each summary takes pretty much less than 10 minutes to complete. It really doesn't take very long. But I do want to take a minute to commend my registrars for taking this on and really embracing the purpose behind this standard. They don't just really fill in what's required, but they do add what makes sense. And I dare say that they enjoy the opportunity to be a part of direct patient care. Because as you see on the bottom here, for additional narrative information, oftentimes when they initiate this form and they've read through the patient's record and they note that the patient has not complied with their follow-up care plans, we can actually make a note there to the provider stating that this patient is due for their one-year post-op colonoscopy, or they need their CEAs, or whatever needs to occur. And then when the provider reads it, he can delete it and add whatever they may have scheduled for that patient. So it is an interesting way for us to be able to communicate what we found in the abstract as opposed to what should have occurred for the patient. So we're actually able to capture some instances where patients, I hate to say that, but when they fall through the crack. We initially piloted 3 sites, which included prostate, bladder, and colon cases diagnosed in 2012. Since the majority of our patients live 25 miles or farther away, we actually elected to mail this information to our patients along with a comprehensive cover letter, and a patient satisfaction survey was sent for us to assess how well the information was received. Now, all of this does require approval by your information security officer and various other committees, and I've actually shared with a few of you here this weekend that our ISO, information security officer, actually felt that the treatment summary was equivalent to a discharge summary. So we really didn't have any issues getting approval to send this out to our patients. So you might throw that in if you come across that issue at your facility. But the treatment summaries, survivorship care plans, and satisfaction surveys were mailed to 225 veterans. And of the 225 mailings, we had 102 surveys that were completed and returned at a 45% response rate, and we really felt that that was pretty good. And as you can see, we've had very favorable responses from our veterans. 97% of them agreed that the treatment summary was understandable. 98% agreed that it was helpful and useful. 99% agreed that the treatment information was complete. And 100%, yay, agreed that the survivorship care plan was helpful. And 99% agreed that resources and contact information was helpful. And I also started making note of all the open-ended comments that were written and included on those surveys. And we had 34% of them actually came back with appreciation for the staff. 18% had appreciation for the medical care that they received, and we had 33% showed appreciation and written comments about the information that was provided to them. Benefits, well, we believe that there are many benefits for using cancer registry data and then complying with this standard. The cancer registry data can be adapted for expeditiously creating treatment summaries and therefore saving providers time. The summary itself serves as yet another QA opportunity of registry data, and it increases awareness of cancer registries and the value of the data that we produce. We believe that it does improve patient care and patient satisfaction. And the summary itself remains as a searchable document in CPRS that can be amended with recurrences or subsequent treatment or changes to the care plans. It could help identify quality care issues potentially affecting reimbursement. And lastly, it improves communication between specialty and primary care teams, resulting in improved follow-up care. A disclosure slide that's required, which I have none. And I know that hopefully in a few minutes I'll get a chance to answer your questions at the end of this session, but I do want to say before my short 15 minutes of fame is over that cancer registrars actually do train and work very hard to collect this data, and I'm certain that we all want it to be used. But not every VA registrar will have the time to initiate and monitor these summaries, but if the national template that we were trying to use was changed and given to facilities for local control, we could actually make the initiation and the manipulation of this even shorter, and therefore maybe providers could then initiate and manage this process themselves and in a real time when they're with the patient sitting in the clinic, because we know that's one of the hardest parts is going through and gathering all the information from the record and compile it into one summary. But until then, Little Rock has this interesting workaround process, and I encourage you to consider it and use cancer registry data rather than lengthy clinician-derived forms. Thank you.